Watertown City Council has a meeting tonight. It is Monday, 17th day of March, and Mayor Pierce is here to give us details. Light agenda, not much to talk about, but at least we can go through what's here and kind of explain the city business. So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
On a Monday, we're talking about, first I guess we have the public hearing that's going to be on the brush, grass, and weeds. Is this allowing people to have those
This is the pollinator. This is the pollinator gardens that we have discussed previously at other council meetings. Basically, allowing people to grow their yards in such a way that typically wouldn't be allowed under current city regulations, but changing it so they're able to have those pollinator gardens in the no-mow May.
Right, and so there's a public hearing tonight, 7:15, and that's a chance for people to come out and express your opinion on it, yay or nay, and then council will make a decision not tonight, but at another meeting probably, right?
I believe we are making a decision on it tonight,
okay.
Yes. Yep, further on down.
On the local law, okay. All right, gotcha. So now some resolutions that are in here, you're going to be looking at a city forester position and eliminate the planner position. So explain what's going on here and why the city has had and needs the forester position.
Sure. So this is a position that fell in under our planning department's budget. The individual who was in this position for quite some time, Mike DeMarco, took a position elsewhere. So it created a vacancy. Our city manager looked at everything holistically, found that it made more sense to have that position, excuse me, under the DPW. So essentially what we'll be doing tonight, if the votes are there, we'll be moving that position under DPW and readopting the budget to reflect that. So this position does include a number of DPW related functions. So, excuse me, still battling that cold. Includes a number of DPW related functions, not just tree planting, but plantings across the city, tree removal. So for example, if a tree has been attacked by the emerald ash borer, they might see to remove the tree, that sort of thing. So making sure that our city's tree inventory is maintained and addressed when there are issues, overseeing plantings, going after grants for tree planting and associated activities, those sorts of things.
You know, I notice in the city manager's report as well, the update from the city manager, he talks about open positions, right? And there are still a few open positions.
Yes. And if you're looking for a new opportunity, you can go right on the city's website. There's a link there for employment opportunities. I'm always trying to post them on my social media accounts. So there's a variety of open positions at this point, as well as a couple that we filled recently too. So
do you feel coming up with the tough budget that maybe that's sort of, and if you have a position that hasn't been applied to or you're not finding a candidate, you may have to take it from the budget there?
Well, honestly, as long as the workload can be addressed by current employees and it's not overburdening them. This is something that it was several years ago now, there was a budget where there were 20 new positions added. And that was one of the concerns that I had at the time, was adding all of those positions. What do you do when, you know, a few years out, you might be in a very tough budget situation like we were last year, like we will be this year. So that's something that I think is always on the table.
Yeah, because people being an expense, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge expense.
Sure.
Salaries.
And but it's, you know, part of what makes government work, right? You got to have the right people.
And we do honestly have a pretty lean staff if you look through the budget as it is right now. But, you know, perhaps there are positions that couldn't be filled. Again, it was a few years ago when we added those 20 positions, and at the time there were a couple of us on council who said this is a lot of positions to add in 1 year. So we may be able to make some changes come budget time. We'll see.
Having a couple of different city council candidates come through here to do some interviews here at the Digital News Desk with us. The hydro contract has come up.
Yes.
And rightfully so. It's been mentioned that this next council, in the 4 years, people that will be on in this new term will be there as that contract runs out and will have a voice with what happens next. With the hydro contract, lucrative contract with National Grid, brings in millions of dollars for the city. It runs out at the end of 2030. Where do you see that playing over the next couple of years? What are some things that need to happen? Are meetings happening behind the scenes that we just don't know about with National Grid yet? Where does that stand?
So right now, obviously we have a new city manager who has just over a year under his belt. I have just over a year under his belt. I have just over a year under my belt as mayor. One of the things that he's been prioritizing in recent months is reviewing the report that the Hydro Committee put together with assistance from Skip Trimble, our consultant. So he's been getting up to speed on that, getting staff up to speed on that, and really looking at, okay, what are the very serious next steps that we can take here? Can we sit down with National Grid? Can we do a number of different things to try to move the ball forward on this issue? Because as you said, this next council that's going to be taking office, this is going to be the group that's in place to make some of those decisions that determine where we go once that contract ends. So as I mentioned, the consultant, with the help of the Hydro Committee, put together a number of different options, different routes we could take. It's a matter of now revisiting those. I know that came up at a meeting recently that we had, and we're going to be looking to have a work session hopefully in the next couple months here, though we will be getting into budget mode in the very near future. But to have a work session where we really seriously look at all of those and say, okay, you know, we're that much closer to the end date of this contract. What can we do right now? What baby steps can we kind of take to start to make plans for when that expires?
What is the budget process, just so people are aware of that as well, because that will start coming in the next few weeks probably, right? Because
Yes.
the city is a July 1 to June 30th fiscal calendar, so the new budget has to be for summertime. And that just, a budget just doesn't come out of thin air. And
No.
a lot of planning, especially in this environment where the city's facing major deficits.
Correct, yes. So in the next few weeks, we will see the proposed budget from the city manager, which includes the input of all our department heads. We'll get a chance to review that, and then we'll have a number of budget work sessions. Those are, of course, open to the public. I think we'll probably have 4 to 5 of them. People can attend them, they can watch online, and then we'll have a couple of public hearings. So if you're somebody who is watching the work sessions at home or following where the budget process is going through the media, you can come to one of those meetings with a public hearing and voice your concerns there, ask your questions there. And you can also always reach out directly to your city council people, reach out directly to me. All of our contact information's on the city website. Reach out with ideas, suggestions for how things could be changed, ideas you might have to cut costs, feedback in general, or questions. We're all here to listen and bring your ideas forward.
And Citizen of the Quarter is something that you started up, and you're looking for more nominations for the next person. It would be your second second person.
Yes, so this is something that I started a couple months ago, Citizen of the Quarter, essentially a way to recognize people in the Watertown community who volunteer their time and efforts to do something to make the city better, essentially, whether they're part of one of our volunteer boards at the city or they're very involved in a community organization. This is just a way to select one person every quarter and recognize them for all that they do. I picked the first recipient of this. I picked Ann Richter-Ashley for her contributions as part of the Eclipse committee that we had. It was essentially a full-time job for her for a period of time, reaching out to businesses and organizations and making sure that they knew what was going on with the Eclipse. So I selected her as the first honoree, and I have a form out there now where people can go. It's on the city website. I'll also put it on my Facebook page so people can find it easily, but people can go on and nominate somebody to be recognized for the second quarter Citizen of the Quarter.
And probably one of the biggest things here on the agenda tonight, we'll be talking about the registry program for lead. The lead rental registry program is the proper name for it. Something that was tabled, right, by in a previous meeting, has to come back. Explain what the program is, and what do you think the vote will be on this tonight?
So this is something that was created through state law, and it's just coming down the pike where we have to be in compliance. The state law essentially established the requirement that communities of concern, Watertown being one of those communities of concern, had to have a lead rental registry in place. So that would require us to, or not us, require essentially the county would be required to inspect properties that were built before 1980 for any sort of lead. And so the city manager has been working with the county to see that see if we could play a role, because this, obviously, Watertown, the city, is a community of concern with a lot of properties that predate the 1980s. So the city manager, as I said, has been working with the county to see if we could play a role and be helpful in addressing this. The resolution that we'll see tonight is probably going to be modified a little bit, but the role that the city would play is we would have codes employees, or ideally people who are contracted by the city that would fall under the codes department, conduct these inspections and play that role as part of this process.
And the concern was where the money was going to come from for some of this.
That's the concern. There is a lot of money out there right now from the state. I'm told that there's more money coming, but for myself, and I know other council members, the concern is, in the future, will these people who were contracting to do this inspection work, will we have the money to be able to pay for that? And so I think one of the changes that you'll probably see in the resolution tonight has to do with the city basically ceasing its role in the program if the funding runs out. So that's something that I know was a concern for a number of my colleagues, or a couple of my colleagues at least. So I think you'll probably see that change. We'll see what happens tonight.
So if it runs out, the city can jump ship. Doesn't have to be
Basically, I think that's the concern for myself and a couple of my colleagues, is we don't want to be stuck with having to pay for these employees or pay for these contracted individuals if we don't have the funding coming from the state or other various sources. But all that said, I think that there is a major issue in speaking with the health department officials with lead poisoning in the city, especially, obviously, young children are impacted by this, and there's a ripple effect. And I think we do have a responsibility to help address that, being that it is the city of Watertown. So this is an opportunity for us to work with the county. I think we need to do more of that and hopefully make this program a success, and it will result in healthier outcomes for the community, healthier outcomes for our children locally. I was just looking at some information that was sent to me that said in the city of Rochester, which is where this program was first started, this is what it's modeled after. In the city of Rochester, they saw a 70% improvement in lead exposures, or less lead exposures. So it's a program that I think could really help the young people in our community and their health. So if the city can play a role in it in a way that makes financial sense for us, I think it's probably a good thing for us to do.
Meeting starts tonight, 7 o'clock, Watertown City Hall. Good to see you.
To see you. Thank you.
Thanks.